So we're hitting up this new series called "Come at Me, Bro," and I have a younger brother, as most of you know, or maybe you don't know. So I have a younger brother, and me and my brother, we've had some battles in life, because he's younger than me, and sometimes he's really annoying. And so we have these battles, and we've had this moment. I remember this moment where, we had where I had a "come at me, bro" moment with him. And so, hey, if you're an older sibling, can you raise your hand? Any older siblings? Yeah. Yo, listen, older siblings, keep your hand up if you're an older sibling. Listen, older siblings, listen. Shh. I feel your pain. I get it. The younger siblings are annoying. They get us in trouble. I get it. Hey, younger siblings, just acknowledge the truth for a moment. Let it sink in. We're the responsible ones. Right, Talon? We're the responsible ones. The older siblings, and we do things the right way. Right? We do things the right way. And then the younger siblings just complain about us and cry about us. Right? Any older siblings agreeing with this? Yeah, right? So I feel your pain. I feel your pain as all these younger siblings are giving me the death stare right now. I don't know what it is. I'm just going to look away. I'm just going to look away. And so anyways, I'm the older brother. I'm still the older brother. And so I'm the older brother. I'm 2 years older than my younger brother. I know I look like I'm 23, but I'm actually 28. My younger brother is 26. And so he tends to annoy me a lot, but I love him. We're really close. We're really tight. It's all cool. So there was a moment. We were growing up. There's been a couple moments, but this particular moment, we were growing up, and there's right by my where my mom lives, the house that she owns. Right by that house, in the corner of this suburb of Chicago, is in a town called Woodstock, is this park that we would always go and play sports at. So me and my brother, we both played sports. We played basketball, baseball, soccer, all that stuff. After school, every day, all day, every day, right? We did this, okay? So, especially on the weekend that was key, that was on point, And so, so there was a day where my brother spearheaded this. He got a bunch of our friends, and we were going to go play baseball at the park. We were going to go play baseball at the park. And so the park, like I said, was right by our house. And so we all end up there, and I actually showed up a little bit late. And my mom, I don't know why she does this, but my mom, she would always take a walk around the park. She would just go on walks around the park. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because, I hope she doesn't watch this, but maybe it's because she's old. I don't know. But she always takes walks around the park. And she's always walking. And for some reason, I'm always getting in trouble because, I don't know, because the younger, I'm the responsible one, right? I'm the older sibling, but the younger sibling always gets me in trouble, right? And so, so she's doing this walk around the park. We're playing baseball. I show up late. And so this is how dumb that we were back then as younger teenagers. This is how dumb we were. We're like, all right, so in this game that we're going to play, this game is really important because the winner of this game gets a 24-pack of Pepsi. All right. That's how important we thought this game was. But really, that's $5. I could buy 3 of them, and so it's crazy. So like we were dumb back then. We were just dumb. So I show up late. They put me on the opposite team my brother is in. And so me and him are very competitive. A lot of our fights, a lot of our arguments are a result of whether we win or lose. And so here's how my mom would settle it. No joke, this is how she would settle it. I don't know if any of your parents has ever done this. She's like, Jason, Jeffrey, you guys both win. We're like, that's not how it works. You have a winner and a loser, right? And he usually is the loser because he usually loses, right? And so we're playing this game. It's the last inning. Let me set the scene for you. It's the last inning, their last chance. We're up 1. Because I showed up late, they threw me at catcher, right? And so my brother is the game-tying run at second base, okay? So the pitch, the pitcher pitches the ball. Whoosh. The ball, the bat, that's a bat sound. That's a bat sound. I don't know. That's my bat sound. It's bad. All right, so the bat swings. He hits the ball, like the batter hits the ball, right? It goes into the outfield. My brother is rounding around third. He's rounding around third. He's running hard. He's running as hard as he can. He's running like a little fat kid running after a candy bar. He's running hard, right? And so, I don't know if I can say that, but I just did. And so he's running, right? He's running hard. And the outfielder throws the ball. He throws the ball. It's a play at the plate. Like, he could run me over. He could slide. He could do any of those things. Like, my attitude is, you got to win. And if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, you know? And so, I do whatever you can to win, right? And so I don't know if I could say that either. I just did. So anyways, so the ball's coming. I catch the ball. And I tag him out. But I just don't I just don't tag him. Like, looking back at it, I don't just tag him, hey, you're out. I kind of tag him and give him a little shove at the same time. And which didn't help the situation at all. And so I tag him, I push him out. He is ticked. He's upset, right? He's mad. He's angry. He starts pushing me. He starts kicking me. He starts whining and crying, and I'm standing there laughing. And so note to self. If you're ever in an argument, and note to self that day, if I'm ever in an argument with my brother and he is crying and whining and kicking and pushing and all that stuff, I probably shouldn't laugh. Okay, that's probably one thing. And I was like, he's like complaining all this. I'm like, dude, you should have ran me over. You should have slid. You should have done something. I didn't do anything wrong. I tagged you out, right? Like, that's why you always lose at stuff, because you cry and are whiny. You lose at everything, you know? And so we're in this argument. And my mom is walking, and she sees this moment, and everything stops. And I've never seen my mom run before, right? And she's like, Jason, Jeffrey, come over here, you know? She's running, right? That's my mom. That's my terrible Indian accent, right? And thank you, come again, you know? And so she's going and running. I can say that, I'm Indian, come on. And so and she's running, and she separates us because we can't do anything. She's our mom, what are we gonna do? And so she separates us. And guess what happens? I did nothing wrong. I still don't understand why this happened. Typical older sibling gets in trouble, right? So I did nothing wrong, right? In my mind, I still did nothing wrong. And so she tells me to go home. Yeah, at least I got Pepsi, you know? She tells me to go home. And So as I'm going home, I continue to laugh at him. I continue to call him a wimp. Note to self, when you have an argument with your sibling, calling them names as you walk away does not help the cause. And so I continue to say that, and I'm like, that's why you lose at everything. That's why you'll always lose at me. You know, I'm walking, I'm laughing, and it didn't really help the situation. I was ready. I was like, come at me, bro, right? And I was ready. Conflict, that was a conflicting situation. And I'm probably going to get a phone call from my brother if he sees this online. But But as I think about conflicting situations, as I think about this whole topic of come at me, bro. I said that really weird. So as I think about it, and as I think about that moment, I realized that anytime there was a potential conflict issue, anytime there was a thing that could have happened to Jesus, that there was an issue that came about, people complaining about him, people not happy with him. A lot of times what we like to think about Jesus. A lot of times what we like to think about Jesus is we like to think that we hear there's this misconception that, well, Jesus was, Jesus never got mad at people. Jesus never he kind of was afraid of conflict. That's a stereotype that a lot of people might have. But here's the truth of the matter. Jesus was never afraid of conflict. We see that all throughout Scripture. He wasn't afraid of conflict. He did everything right in life, but he wasn't afraid of conflict. Actually, he met the issues right there. When the religious leaders and they thought they were doing right and all this stuff, and they were like, well, we don't commit adultery. And Jesus is like, yeah, but dude, you guys look at other girls. And they're like, well, we don't murder people. Jesus was like, yeah, but you go and hold things against people. You go and look to get revenge. You go and do all these things. You hate other people, right? So Jesus met things right where they're at. There even came a point where Jesus. This is crazy. There came a point where Jesus called these religious leaders, he called them the offsprings to snakes, right? He said, you guys are snakes. You guys are manipulative. He called them snakes. Snakes are cool, but they're also very slimy and manipulative and sly thing where I don't know where I'm going. And but he called them snakes. He didn't run away. He didn't run away from conflict. See, and tonight, here's what I appreciate about Jesus, and here's what we're getting at tonight. Tonight, what I hope you understand is that everything Jesus did, he was going to do what is right no matter what. He was going to do what is right no matter what. If it meant he had to deal with a conflicting situation, if it meant he had to get into people's faces, if it meant he had to be real with people and it was this awkward thing for maybe that other person, he was willing to do it because he was willing to do what is right no matter what. And we're going to take a look at this story in John chapter 2. So you can go ahead and turn there. We're going to start in verse 13. And as we take a look at this story, we realize that Jesus did what was right, what is right, no matter what. And I believe he did that because of two truths that Jesus understood. Okay? Because of two truths that Jesus understood. So if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn there. If you're there, say holla. Oh, I got Jordan back there. You got three. Anyone not there? Anyone not there? Well, John 2, verse 13. Anyone not there? Well, hurry up then. Come on, yo. All right, John 2, starting in verse 13. This is what it says. This is what it says. It was nearly time for the Jewish Passover celebration. So Jesus went to Jerusalem. In the temple area, he saw merchants selling cattle, sheep, and doves for sacrifice. He also saw dealers at tables exchanging foreign money. Jesus made a whip from some ropes and chased them all out of the temple. He drove out the sheep and cattle, scattered the money changers' coins over the floor, turned over tables. Then going over to the people who sold doves, he told them, "Get these things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a marketplace." Then his disciples remembered this prophecy from the scriptures. "Passion for God's house will consume me." But the Jewish leaders demanded, "What are you doing? If God gave you authority to do this, show us a miraculous sign to prove it." "All right," Jesus replied, "destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." "What?" they exclaimed. It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you can rebuild it in 3 days?" But when Jesus said this temple, he meant his own body. After he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered he had said this, and they believed both the scriptures and what Jesus had said. So we see there's a lot going on in this passage, okay? And if I was there, you know, because he sees, I wasn't, I'm not that old, you know, I know that's not popular belief around here, but I'm not old. I'm just saying. And so I'm a young 28 with a fresh hairline. And so, hey, easy. And so there's a lot going on. Jesus is angry in this passage, right? He's turning over tables. Money is flying on the floor. He's saying, why are you turning God's house? Why are you turning God's house into a marketplace, right? Right? A lot of stuff is going on. And if I were to place myself in this scene, if I were to place myself in the setting, the question I'd be like, you mad, bro? Right? Like, that's the question I'd ask Jesus. Like, you mad, bro? Because, like, why is he mad? See, I don't think the important part in this is that Jesus is angry. I want to know, why is he angry? What is causing him to be mad? See, back then, they would sell cattle and doves and exchange money because people would need to give an animal sacrifice. And but in this circumstance, something else has happened. It has shifted from worshiping the Lord and providing an animal sacrifice to just a means of making money. It turned this temple, this church, into a commercial venture. See, Jesus saw their actions of all they wanted to do was trying to make money and making money and making money. He saw it as an insult to God. And all of a sudden, Jesus' protective instincts came out. All of a sudden, Jesus' passion and his actions revealed this passion to guard his Father's interest. See, Jesus was upset because their focus wasn't on worshiping the Lord and providing an animal sacrifice. The focus all of a sudden became on making money, on getting a profit, on using the church and the temple as a farmer's market, in a sense. Right? And so Jesus was angry. And in his anger, in his frustration, in how he just was like, come at me, bro, and I'm gonna turn over tables. I'm gonna do all these things to reveal some things to you. It showed that he was gonna do whatever it took, no matter what, to do what is right. But how does he get to that mindset? I think he got to that mindset because he, like I said earlier, he understood two truths that we are going to investigate a little bit more in John chapter 2. The first truth that he understood is this. In order for him to have a mindset to do what is right no matter what, the first truth is this. Doing what is right may not always be easy. See, Jesus understood that doing what is right may not always be easy. He understood that doing what is right may mean doing what is unpopular. Doing what is right means that people may not like what you are about to do. Right? He understood that doing what is right meant this, that there are times where the best decisions in life are not always the comfortable decisions. He understood that to do what is right, it might mean doing things that might not be so comfortable, that might be even a little bit awkward. Like, I think Jesus didn't desire to call people out. He didn't want to turn tables over. He didn't want to cause a scene. But he knew that was the right thing to do. So he was willing to do something a little bit uncomfortable. He was willing to do something that may not be easy. He was willing to do things that might be a little bit awkward. He was willing to do things that might cause a scene because it was the right thing to do. There are times where the best decisions you possibly could make in life may not always be the most comfortable decisions you'll ever make in life. In other words, and if you've been around me long enough, you might have heard me say this before. In other words, there are times that what is best is not always what is easy. See, as a follower of Jesus, as someone who does his best to follow Jesus, Jesus tells us that living a life for him is not easy, that doing what is right is not easy. In Matthew 24, he says that you will be arrested, you will be persecuted and killed, you will be hated all over the world because you are my followers. He tells this to the disciples. He says, man, when you follow me, you're going to face some rough times. He says in Matthew 10 that all the nations will hate you because you are my followers. He says, he makes it clear that following Jesus, following him is not easy. But I promise you, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely the right thing to do. And a lot of times, doing the right thing means doing the hard thing. See, I think Jesus got to this mindset because he understood that what is right is more important than what is easy and comfortable. In his mind, he's like, doing the right thing is more important than being well-liked. Doing the right thing is more important than everyone agreeing with every decision that I make. Doing the right thing is more important than all this other stuff that is a consequence of doing the right thing. He understood that it wasn't easy. He would rather do something dangerous and uncomfortable than go against what he knows is to be right. I mean, we just look at the cross. You know, when he died on the cross for our sins, he didn't have to do that. But he knew it was the right thing to do. So he was willing to do something hurtful to himself. He was willing to do something that was dangerous. He was willing to do something that caused him pain, not only because he loved you, but he knew it was what was right. In Isaiah 53, it says this, but he was pierced for our rebellion, crushed for our sin. He was beaten so we could be whole. He was whipped so we could be healed. All of us, like sheep, have stayed away. We have left God's path to follow our own. Yet the Lord laid on him the sins of us all. He was oppressed and treated harshly, yet he never said a word. He was like a lamb to the slaughter. And as a sheep is silent before the shears, he did not open his mouth. He was willing to do all that because that was more important than what may have been the easy decision he could have made. It was more important than making the easy decision and never doing it at all. Doing what is right may not always be easy. So the second truth that Jesus understood to help him do what is right no matter what is that he understood that sacrificing what is right for a moment of gratification leads to a regretful decision. Sacrificing what is right for a moment of gratification leads to a regretful decision. See, a lot of times we live in the moment, right? It seems like a good idea in the moment. It seems like it's fun in the moment. And we sacrifice all this promise. We sacrifice all this greatness. We sacrifice all this future for the moment. And as I observe life, as I even experience life, I've kind of realized that regrets come from making decisions out of impulse. Regrets come from making decisions out of impulse. It's when you don't think about the ramifications of what would happen if I did this. Like, I think in Jesus' mind, when he's going through and turning tables over, he's saying, if they don't know that this is wrong, when will they know? If I don't do this in this moment and help them realize that they are making a mistake, when am I going to do that? Right? So he was willing to sacrifice people agreeing with what he's about to do. He was willing to sacrifice maybe even popularity because he knew it was the right thing to do. He wasn't worried about the moment. He wasn't worried about the moment of, man, people are not going to like me for this. He was more worried about their long-term future than their immediate comfortability. Regrets come out of doing things out of impulse. I mean, in Proverbs 19, we see the Proverbs say this, that haste makes mistakes. Haste is just doing things without thinking it through. Haste makes mistakes. We see in Luke 9, right? Jesus wasn't being well received in this particular village. And when James and John saw this, they said to Jesus, "Lord, should we call down fire from heaven to burn them up?" But Jesus turned and rebuked them. So James and John sees that Jesus isn't being well received, and he's like, "Lord, let's just call the fire and burn them up." They tried to act out of impulse, and Jesus recognized, hey, that's a mistake. He's like, I know you're looking after my best interest that you think that is. I know that you're just trying to look out for me, but I can take this. Because I'm more concerned about these people's long-term success than my immediate comfort. Jesus wasn't willing to sacrifice what was right for a moment of gratification. And what I hope you get, what I hope you understand today is we all make choices in life. Those choices have consequences, whether good or bad. But the choices that you make today have the ability to make an impact tomorrow. The choices that you make today have the ability to make an impact on tomorrow. And it's not, and here's the crazy part. Your choices just doesn't affect you. It can affect those around you. See, Jesus, he could have said, you know what? I want these religious leaders to like me. So I'm just gonna turn away and not deal with it. And not deal with the conflicting situation and experience that they like me, right? He could have done that. But he wasn't willing to sacrifice what was right because he saw the bigger picture. He broadened his view. Because he realized that the choice he is making today, the hard choice, the not easy choice, has the ability to impact tomorrow. We see this evidently clear throughout Scripture. We see that people in the Bible made choices that impacted their future. We see people like Moses who killed a Hebrew because he saw that he was mistreated. And his anger was justified, but he handled his anger in the wrong way. And he killed this Hebrew. And as a result, he killed the Egyptian. Sorry. He killed the Egyptian because the Hebrew was being mistreated, right? He saw one of his very own people being mistreated. So he killed an Egyptian, right? Handled his anger in the wrong way. And because of that, he had to run away from Egypt. We see Moses again. God tells him to speak into the rock as he's leading the people into the promised land. And instead, because he's angry that the people are complaining, he strikes the rock. And because he made that choice, he was never allowed to enter the promised land, to lead the people into the promised land. He never saw the promised land because he allowed himself to be controlled in the moment. We see two brothers, Jacob and Esau. Esau was promised all this great future and all this great promise and all this great potential, right? And Esau was promised all this future. And one day he's out in the field and he's starving, right? He says to his brother Jacob, man, I am dying of starvation. And Jacob's like, all right, I'll feed you. I'll feed you. I'll feed you this stew that I've made. I'll feed you this stew if you sell me your birthright, if you sell me your future, if you sell me everything that is promised to you. So Esau, check this out. Esau sells all this money, power, wealth, right? All this. He sells all this for a bowl of stew because in the moment he was hungry. He wasn't willing to just do what is right and sacrifice a moment of gratification. He wasn't willing to do that. Instead, he sacrificed what is right for a moment of pleasure, for a moment of gratification, and it was something that he regretted for the rest of his life. We see Judas, right? Judas, we see that in Matthew. Judas, one of Jesus' best friends, right? Betrays Jesus. One of his best friends betrays Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, for money. His greed, his moment, he has this moment and he's like, man, I want more wealth. And he takes that and sacrifices what is right. Sacrifices what is right. But then we see the other side of that. We see Jesus call out to the disciples to follow him. Right? And the disciples had this moment where they said, I could stay in the comforts of my own house, in the comforts in the comforts in being with my own family. Or I could do something a little bit risky and follow Jesus. Or I could do what they knew was the right thing to do and follow Jesus. And they decided to do what is right and follow Jesus. And those things not just impacted them in that moment, it impacted them for the rest of their life. Because they were willing to they weren't willing to sacrifice what is right for a moment of gratification. Because they realized that sacrificing what is right for a moment of gratification leads to regret. See, I think if you saw Esau now, he would have said that was a dumb decision. If you saw Esau now, he said, I regretted that for the rest of my life. If you saw Judas now, he would say, man, I regretted that decision so much that I took my own life, because he ends up hanging himself over this decision that he made. See, Jesus did what was right no matter what, because he realized it wasn't going to be easy, and he realized that sacrificing what is right for a moment wasn't worth it. If you could just play a little bit, that'd be awesome. Thank you. It kind of reminds me of this. Growing up in the Chicagoland area, I had this friend. And this friend, his name's Shane. And Shane and I were the same age, or are still the same age. That didn't change. Shane and I, we had the same birthday, right? I lived in this apartment complex. I lived in this apartment complex till I was second grade, till I was in the second grade, and then at the second grade, maybe it was the end of my second grade year, my mom bought a house, and it's the house she still lives in today. And Shane and I we lived in the same complex at this apartment, and then when I moved away to this house in the same town, I would see him every day at the park. We would play basketball together. I considered him a friend. I still do. I haven't really kept in contact with him. So we played basketball every day. We hung out a lot through basketball and through sports. Went to this same park, right? And when we got into, I want to say, my freshman year, Shane started hanging out with people that I wasn't willing to hang out with. Shane started doing things that, because of the people that he was hanging out with, that I wasn't willing to do. Our friendship kind of drifted. And Shane made a choice to do drugs. Made a choice to have a kid at a young age. And all that entails. As a result of having a kid at a young age, obviously he had premarital sex. He made a choice to be around people, to be honest, that really wasn't helping him. And it was like one choice after another choice after another choice. And it started my freshman year in high school. Let's fast track about 4 years down the road. My senior year in high school, maybe 3.5 years. My senior year in high school, walking in line about to get my high school diploma, and I don't see Shane. What happened was Shane decided to ditch classes, and he dropped out. And I don't even know where he is today. But as I think back and wonder, as I take a step back, like we hung out almost every day playing basketball. We saw each other every day. Could his story could have been my story? Maybe. But here's what happened. Shane made a choice that not only affected him in that moment, but affected him forever, because it led to another choice, which led to another choice, which led to another choice. See, and in my head, I knew what was right. I knew what my mom taught me. I knew what my youth pastor taught me. I knew what people that cared about me in my church taught me. I knew what was right. And I was willing, and I'm not trying to brag about myself. You know my heart here. It actually hurts me to even share this story because I care about that guy so much. But I knew what was right, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice what was right to be well liked by people who really wasn't looking out for my best interests. And the difference between me and Shane was he might have not known what was right, but the other difference was he would rather be comfortable in that sense. He would rather be liked. He would rather be popular than to do what was right. And here's my message to you. Do what is right, no matter what. It may mean that some nights you're lonely because a lot of your friends are partying. It may mean that you might have to create some awkward situations like Jesus did and turn over tables and all that. It may mean that there may be moments where people might not like the decisions that you make. And even though in the moment it's hard, in the moment, if I can be honest with you, it sucks. Because you don't want people to be against you, right? But in the end, because you did what was right no matter what, it was worth it. It was worth it. I think if you ask Jesus, "Wait, was it worth it turning over the tables?" Like, yeah, dude, it was worth it. He might not call you dude, but he's like, yeah, it was worth it. If you ask the disciples, "Hey, man, like leaving your home and leaving your family, was it worth it?" Yes. And if you were to ask Esau and Judas, that moment that you gave in to your impulse, the moment that you wanted that money or that bowl of stew, was it worth it? I would say no. Because the difference was they didn't do what was right no matter what. They gave in to their immediate desires and their impulse and sacrificed what was right for a moment of gratification. Let's pray. With every head bowed and eyes closed tonight, and you would say, "Pastor Jason, I hear you, and I'm willing to do what is right no matter what." And all that entails. all of what is right brings, whether it brings uncomfortable situations, whether it brings unpopular situations. I am willing tonight to say, I will do what is right, no matter what. If that's you, I just simply want you to raise your hand. I know you can't do it on your own. I know you need God's help to do it. I just simply want you to raise your hand. Just me, you, and Jesus. That's awesome. Awesome. Hands all over this place. Jesus, you see the hands lifted to you. God, we understand that even though we desire to do what is right no matter what, we can't do it on our own. We need your help. So God, we ask that you help us do that. Be with us, guide us in every decision. Give us the strength not to give into a moment and sacrifice a future. Give us the strength not to give in, but to do what is right no matter what. Help us, Lord, in your precious name.